is research. After discussing the characteristics of a good research problem, the next thing that we're going to discuss is actually doing the research. And for quite a time, people think that doing research is really difficult, and it is. Don't get me wrong. Doing research is actually a difficult process. And one of the first difficulty na nai-encounter ng mga students sa research is that how do we think of a problem? So, yun yung main problem na nai-encounter ng mga student and even teachers and even scientists themselves kapag gumagawa sila ng research is selecting a topic na karapat-dapat i-take up in a research study. So, what's the main problem? First is that we don't know where to start. The second is we don't know when to start, and we don't know how to start pagdating sa mga research. But what if I tell you na yung isa sa mga pinaka-inaayawan natin na part ng research traditionally ay yun pala ang susi kung paano natin mas maiintindihan ang research. Okay, so ang solution na ito, it gives you the following advantages. One, it gives you a framework on how you will conduct your research. Number two, it tells you the steps, the actual steps you'll have to perform for your research study. Ano yung mga experiment na gagawin? Ano yung step-by-step procedure ng iyong research? And it will tell you what has worked and what has not worked. So, what is this? Tadan! It is called the review of the related literature. In older times, tinatawag siyang review of related literature and studies. But, habang nag-evolve tayo, hindi na masyadong importante ang distinction na yon. But for the sake of this video, i-discuss natin kung ano yung distinction na yon. Pag sinabi natin review of related literature, ito yung mga nakapublish na mga article, ito yung mga makikita natin sa magazines and sa mga books. It's literature. Pag sinabi naman mga studies, these are mga research work, either thesis or dissertation, na either unpublished or published. So again, pag sinabi natin na literature, these are books, articles, magazine clippings. Pag sinabi naman natin na studies, these are either published or unpublished thesis and dissertation. Usually ginagawa ng mga students or ginagawa ng mga professional researchers in their respective field of expertise. But then again, because we are moving forward, hindi na tayo masyadong nagbibigay ng emphasis pagdating sa difference ng related literature and ng related studies. So we discuss them in one umbrella, which is the review of the related literature. Okay. But first, let's give, kumbaga, magbigay tayo ng important na definition. The key definition is a review of related literature is a detailed review of existing literature related to the topic of a thesis or a dissertation or any study na under kinakandak ng researcher. Again, it should be literature relevant to the topic being studies. Kaya nga, related literature. Ano yung mga purposes ng RRL natin? Okay, the first one is that it provides a foundation of knowledge for the topic. Kumbaga, nagbibigay siya ng background kung ano yung nais nyong pag-aralan. Kumbaga, how would you know kung halimbawa ang gusto mong topic is the antibacterial effect of a particular plant? So, you'll have to look up kung ano yung mga literature na naisulat na patungkol sa particular plant na yan. Kasi, saan ka naman maghahanap? Anong gagawin mo? Magtatanong ka, sino ang tatanungin mo? Chances are, to gather preliminary data for this, you'll have to look at the literature written about the topic. Pangalawa, it identifies area of prior scholarship to avoid duplication. Bakit? Kasi ano naman ang silbi? Halimbawa, kung pipili ka ng topic na the antibacterial or the antiseptic effect of banana leaves the antiseptic effect, for example, of guava leaves. May nasulat na ba tungkol dyan? Yes. So, why do you have to study on that very particular topic? So, to avoid duplication, kailangan mong basahin kung ano yung naisulat na patungkol sa isang topic. Again, to avoid duplication. And number 3, isa sa mga function niya is that you avoid legal issues. Kasi very importante yung, halimbawa, malaking issue sa mga kabataan, halimbawa, pag tinake mo yung picture ng kaibigan mo, tapos, nag-change DP siya. Tapos, anong ginagawa mo, di ba? Pag hindi ka credit, sabihin mo credits po sa DP. Or, kung matalino yung kaibigan mo, pag-upload niya ng profile picture niya, nakatag ka. Credits to or emoji na camera, and then kasunod yung pangalan mo. Because, that's important. Because it gives credence kung sino talaga yung kumuha ng picture sa kaso ng DP, and kung sino yung nagsulat, sino yung source ng information, para naman, kumbaga, may balik doon sa gumawa. At para rin naiwasan mo yung issue on plagiarism. Because those have actual legal repercussions or effects. Okay. It also helps you identify inconsistencies. Or, pag nakita mo kasi kung ano yung mga nakasulat na regarding a particular topic, mahanap mo rin kung ano yung mga hindi pa nakasulat. You'll know what is not yet known. Yung mga gaps na yon, dati may separate chapter siya sa related literature. Dati nung chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pa, chapter 2, yung related literature. Dati yon. But, iba na po ngayon. Pag in-identify mo kasi kung ano yung known, you will also know what is not known. For example, you want to study the gusto mong pag-aralan ang malunggay. So, marami ng paper tungkol sa malunggay. But, pag binasa mo yung literature, you will know what is already known about malunggay, ano yung mga study niya, and marami. But, pag naalaman mo rin, meron pa palang mga gaps na hindi pa na papag-aralan. And that's the importance of the review of related literature. You'll understand what areas of a particular topic ang unexplored pa, and kung worthy ba yon ng exploration. Okay. Pagdating din kasi sa research, hindi naman lahat nasasagot. Hindi lahat nasasagot ng isang particular research. There are things that are left by previous researchers. And because you have read these studies, this literature, malalaman mo yung mga questions na left hanging pa. So, those also can be a starting point on what topic you will be researching as a researcher. Next, identify need for additional research. So, for example, gumawa ka ng isang study. The study is very new. Wala siyang katulad. But, does that automatically become medical practice? Halimbawa, nadiskubre, in a sense, ng mga tao, halimbawa, na nakakatulong sa dengue, sa mga pasyenteng may dengue, nakatulong sa dengue, parang tinulungan mo yung dengue. No. Para nakakatulong sa mga taong affected by dengue yung pag-inom ng nilagang dahon ng tawa-tawa or pagkain ng dahon ng tawa-tawa mismo. So, nagkaroon ng study. Nakita mo na may significant effect. But, will that be now accepted medical practice kapag may dengue, papainumin agad ng tawa-tawa? No. Bakit? Because it needs a further study. And kung mayroon ganito, nabasa mo, may study pala tungkol dito, for that to be accepted, kailangan mo na siyang i-review ng peer review. Titingnan kung ano yung proseso na ginawa, accurate ba yung experiments na ginawa, and pag-aaralan pa further kung replicable or mauulit yung mga resulta given the same variables, kung mauulit ba yung resulta nitong iyong study. Kaya, malaking tulong kung may replication studies tayong tinatawag, and this could be done only if you conduct a review of related literature. Next, it helps you identify the relationship of works in context of its contribution to the topic and other works. Kumbaga, makukonect ka mo yung mga relationship ng iba-ibang mga topics. Itong topic na ito, itong study na ito, this is a review of the first study. And this third study is also a review of the first study. Kumbaga, you will know yung weaknesses ng previous studies in comparison with the later studies. Because even scientists can make mistakes. And because of review of related literature, you will be able to identify on what mistakes the previous researchers may have made. And this is how we build knowledge. Next, what are the parts of your review of related literature? Again, this is more profitable in the olden times when the review of the related literature was still a separate chapter in thesis writing. Now we follow the IMRAD format: introduction, methodologies, materials and methodologies, results and discussion. Under the introduction, may integrated na yung tinatawag natin na review of related literature and studies. So, how do we actually make our lives easier? Okay, the introduction part, the main body, and the conclusion. What's in the introduction? It highlights the importance of your research, topics and mentions and controversies in addition to background knowledge. The main body should have subheadings or subcategories discussing the actual meat or yung mismong laman nung iyong related literature. And, of course, the conclusion, it will summarize the evidence backing up your study or justifying kung bakit kailangan mong gawin yung study. And kung paano siya nakaka-relate ngayon sa study mo. Okay? So, that's the conclusion. Okay, so now, let's move on to how do we actually write the review. First and foremost, you will have to identify the main topic and the subtopics you have for your research. Say, how do you do that? First, you narrow down your topic. Okay, for example, your topic will be about ampalaya. Which part of ampalaya? Okay, the dahon, the leaves. What kind of leaves? Is it old leaves or the young leaves? The young leaves. What about the young leaves? The medicinal effect. What medicinal effect? The antiseptic effect. What kind of antiseptic effect? Will it be antifungal, antiprotozoan, or antibacterial? Okay, antibacterial. On what type of bacteria mo siya gustong i-test? Gram-positive, gram-negative? Ano ang kailangan mo i-test? So you will have to be very specific. You'll have to look at a very narrow definition of your topic. The same works for the RRL. Why? Because it will help you to catalog your data later on. Next is you work on your sources. You actually look at your sources. Kailangan mo nang basahin yung mga dapat ginagawa ninyo. In the olden days, kailangan mong gawin yun, ilista mo. Dati kami, when I was still a research student, may index card kami. Per category ng topic and subcategory, isang index card, nakaipit pa yon, naka-folder, tapos pupunta kami sa library and we will search. Now, there is no need for that. You can organize your topics per folder and then you just have to Google and then you have to copy-paste the link, copy-paste the content para mas organized yung pag-research ninyo, which I will show. Okay, so you organize and then you read your materials. This is very important. You don't have to read everything in there. Meron tayong Control F kung naka-Word or kung nasa Google Chrome or nakasahid sa ang browser para mahanap mo yung mga relevant key terms that you are looking for. And then, you'll have to organize it. Kailangan mo siyang i-highlight kung ano mga kailangan and then you'll have to analyze and criticize. How do you do that? Well, that's for you to find out. Kailangan nyo ng practice. You'll have to actually do it to know kung ano yung analysis and criticism. But, just an intro. When we analyze and criticize a particular set of topics and material or literature na na-research natin, you'll have to look at what is its relation to your study. Because even though it's very good data, even though it's very important data, as long as it's not related to your study, you don't have to research on it. For example, let's go back. For example, you're researching the antibacterial effect of malunggay. And you see that it has an antifungal effect. Do you have to go there? Is it important? Yes, it's important. But do you have to go there? No, because that data is unrelated to your topic. Unless otherwise, the procedure on how you will do it is similar on how you will do your procedure for your antibacterial study. Okay. Having said that, there are two types of resources which we will encounter. The first is primary sources. Primary sources contain first-hand information, which means that you are reading the author's account on a specific topic or event that he or she participated in. The primary sources, when we are dealing with related literature, will include original documents, manuscripts, diaries, letters, interviews, records, eyewitness accounts, and autobiographies. Or it will include the author's study, including researchers' clinical reports, case studies, or dissertation. And these are classified now as under primary sources. Why? Because you are actually extracting data from the author himself or herself who actually published or made that article or thesis or dissertation. So we classify that as primary sources or resources. Secondary resources, on the other hand, deals with studies by other researchers. Kumbaga, they describe and analyze and evaluate information found in primary sources. Very common example is yung mga articles that we read in scientific magazines. Typically, they don't publish researches themselves. What they do is they analyze and criticize the contents of a research paper done by another person. So, if hindi yung mismong person ang nagsusulat tungkol dun sa study na yon, that would be classified as a secondary resource. Again, the difference is, pag primary resource, yung mismong nag-publish, yung mismong nagsulat, ay yung mismong nag-gather at nag-interpret ng data. Pag secondary resource, ito yung ibang tao na yung nag-analyze ng data na ipinablish ng isang researcher. Get the point? That's a very important distinction to make. Okay, just for a short review, let's remember that a review of related literature, no pun intended, is a detailed review of existing literature about a particular subject. It should be, first of all, most important consideration, it must be relevant to the topic you are studying. It's also important to distinguish between a primary resource and a secondary resource. Also, remember, on what are the important parts of a review of related literature: the introduction, the body, and very good, the conclusion. Okay, so let's now try your learning about this particular topic. Will you be able to correctly classify the following on whether or not they are secondary or primary? Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope we have learned something from this, and I hope that you will be able to apply this and help you identify a problem and work on the identified problems. Till the next time, see ya.